Rise Career Exploration is financially supported by listeners like you. Every dollar helps towards future podcast episodes. Click on the link in the show notes or visit us at risecareer.org today. Thank you for your support. Enjoy the show. And remember, together we rise.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, welcome everyone. I'm your host, Corey Alexander, licensed school counselor, author, and entrepreneur. And this is Rise Career Exploration, the podcast, where we interview guests on their professional journeys. Choosing a career can be one of the most difficult decisions of your life. Join me as we interview guests on their professional journeys. You'll find that the twists and turns of career struggles aren't unique to you, and that the path to your dream profession isn't always a straight line. Whether you are a student who wants to learn what it takes to be in a specific career, or just want to hear some great career advice, this podcast is for you. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Corey Alexander, host of Rise Career Exploration, and today's interview is with Ray Leak Sr. For the past 18 years, he's been a longshoreman in New Jersey, crane operator. So a longshoreman crane operator's job description typically involves operating cranes to load and unload cargo from ships at ports or docks. They are responsible for safely maneuvering the crane to lift, move, and position containers or other heavy loads following specific guidelines and safety protocols. Additionally, they may perform maintenance checks on the equipment and ensure proper handling of the cargo during loading and unloading operations. So if you ever wanted to know, at the docks, the men or women up in the cranes, many feet in the air, moving cargo containers from one ship to another or from one part of the port to another, we're going to get behind the scenes of what that job entails. So let me welcome Ray Leak Sr. Hey, Ray.
How you doing, my brother?
What's going on?
I'm well, and yourself?
Good. Thanks for coming on, bro.
Yes, absolutely.
So I introduced you 18 years, right? 18 years doing this. Longshoreman crane operator.
18 years, working on 19.
God bless you. Godspeed. So I'm ready to jump in if you're ready. I know you got to get back to your family. It's Sunday.
I'm ready.
All right. So our first question is, can you tell me about how you got started in the field of longshoreman crane operator and what initially drew you to the profession?
So it's an interesting story. I actually started as an outside truck driver, and I was driving containers in and out of the ports, and I also went to college, and that's for a whole nother show, how I ended up in a tractor trailer. But I played some college football, and I showed up in the refrigerated department with some East Stroudsburg University paraphernalia. And the head of the refrigerated department saw the paraphernalia, and lo and behold, his son was playing football at East Stroudsburg at the time. So long story short, we connected because the conversation was initiated because of the common ground him and I had. And I said, yeah, ask your son about me. So he asked his son, and his son asked about me. You know, we had a really successful program up at East Stroudsburg University when I was there. So I'm sure the coaches told him, yeah, we know Ramon Leak and things of that nature. So that's what really set the groundwork, because once I realized that I knew someone that worked there, and through conversations, he began to I became curious about his job and the workers there, and being an outside trucker, you get exposed to the day-to-day operations because you're in the terminal every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be frank. I heard they make a whole gang of money. And so I wanted to know, how can I, get this job? So, there was a lot more steps that came into being. But that's what initially sparked my interest. Just to add a little bit further onto the story, one of the guys I went to school with, mother knew someone very prominent at the local, and he basically gave my name to his mother, who gave my name to one of the union officials, and that's essentially how I ended up. From a natural perspective, we know that God is, in charge of everything.
Yeah, all assignments.
Ultimately, it was His will. He opened the doors, but as they say, faith without works is dead. I took the steps, I put myself in the right conditions, and God blessed me with this job.
Yeah, amen. Over the course of 18 years, how has your role as a crane operator evolved? Have you taken any additional responsibilities or pursued any specialized training?
So, longshoreman is a really on-the-job training. I mean, you really, we used to joke and say, they throw you to the wolves. It's almost like that because when I finished my training, which was probably less than 2 months.
Wow.
In the crane, you would think, it's $1 million machine. Oh, these guys must train for a year or for years.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 2 months. Maybe it was 3 months. Now, I've been in the crane almost 11 years now. But either way, it's not as comprehensive as you think. Even if it was 3 months, it does not reflect the weightiness of the responsibility of being a crane operator.
Yeah.
So it's very competitive, it's very demanding, and you have to be cut from a certain cloth, if you will, in order to make it at that position. So not everyone aspires to be a crane operator. A lot of people just want to take a low responsibility job and come in and make their money and go home. But once again, to whom much is given, much is required. So as you begin to matriculate as a crane operator, you come into contact just in a daily part of the job, picking up, we call them over heights or over wide pieces, and some of them are bulk pieces, where I've had the opportunity to take $1 million yachts and speedboats off of ships and literally place them in the water, where the owner or the yacht captain or whatever terminology is assigned to those guys will literally get on the boat and sail off into the sunset, right? And then there's, huge items like, gigantic engines and generators and things that are just too massive to come in, through conventional means. And they're made overseas, and they find a way to place them in the belly of the ship or on top of the ship, everything from fire trucks to military equipment. I've taken jacuzzis, all types of stuff, any and everything. As you know, America's not quite the industrial nation that we once were years ago. So most of the goods and services are imported from foreign countries.
Yeah.
So everything comes through the ports. So with that being said, yeah, there's a lot of specialty moves that require specialty equipment, and you don't get no extra training. There's a lot of guidance and people that are working along with you on the ground that rig up the special straps or the special hooks or whatever it is to, remove or extract this equipment off the big ships.
Yeah. Yeah. And so do you work on, like in any given day, do you work on multiple different cranes, or Ray Leak Sr. has his crane that he reports to every day? And
no, so typically I could be in a different crane each day. And there are some occasions where I might have to go from one crane to another in one shift.
Okay.
So we have 3 different cranes at the job, and what makes one crane different from the other is the height. So
how high you're sitting.
Right. So the super crane, this is the top of the crane, not the cab. The cab is probably, I want to estimate, around maybe 40 or 50 feet lower than the top of the mast. Okay. So that's that's how the crane is measured. So the biggest crane we have is 170 feet. Okay. So I want to say the next crane down is probably 30 or 40 feet lower. So when you're in the big crane, the super post-Panamax cranes, this is for the super ships. Once they open up the Panama Canal, we gained access to these super ships that prior to that didn't have access directly to the East Coast because of the Panama Canal, and also the Bayonne Bridge was too low. Okay. But those that are familiar with this general area knows that billions of dollars went into raising the Bayonne Bridge. And the purpose of that was to salvage the economic importance of the Eastern Seaboard as a vital part of trade and commerce on a global scale. The super ships, used to have to go to California, which had the infrastructure and didn't have the barriers of low bridges to inhibit their arrival or berth, which is a maritime terminology, berthing meaning to dock. We had the restrictions because of the Panama Canal, once again, which cut the route. Once they widened it and deepened it, they were able to come through there. But then it was the Bayonne Bridge, which was too low for these super ships to get underneath them. So once, all of the important modifications to the route was made, then we gained access to the super ships. With that being said, then we needed larger cranes. The ships are taller, the ships are wider, so we needed bigger cranes in order to service our customers. So we initially started with 4 of these 170-foot cranes. Once the new ones came in, we just got 2 more. We have 4 cranes, the next size down, which I want to guesstimate at probably around 150 or 140 feet. And then there's a smaller crane at probably around 120 feet high.
Gotcha.
So those are the 3 sizes. We had smaller cranes before that, but we had to get, those were obsolete.
Yeah. And so you work for the state of New Jersey. Like who?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Who do you work for? The port?
It's a little complex. The New York Shipping Association is in charge of East Coast shipping in conjunction with the ILA, which is the International Longshoreman Association. So we are unionized. The local is in charge of the labor.
Okay.
So that's what the local provides. They provide the labor. And of course, they negotiate the contract, the ILA, for their workers. And then there's a governing body. Let me see if I can get this right. It's the U.S. Maritime Association. I'm probably missing a letter of the acronym somewhere, but they have an entity that barters on behalf of the companies. So I'm a member of the local, but we're under New York Shipping Association. But when I'm asked who do I work for, I say APM Terminal.
Okay.
Because when I came in, I had a sponsor, which was a specific terminal, which means each terminal has different equipment. We primarily use what's called a transtainer, which is a smaller crane that moves around the yard. It's a mobile crane.
Okay.
You can fit 5 containers stacked on top of one another underneath that type of crane. That's what we use to service the outside truckers. We use transtainers.
Okay.
The other major terminals in the area, Mar Terminal and Ports of America, use what's called straddle carriers. This is a machine that can carry one box. Well, they all handle one box at a time, but I'm pretty sure they can only straddle, thus the name straddle carrier, 3 boxes. So that gives you a general idea of the difference in the height of the machine, the size of the machine.
Gotcha.
You have one machine that, I guess they have different heights too. They might have a 2-high straddle carrier that can go over 2 boxes, a 3-high, and maybe a 4-high. Maybe there's more, I'm not sure, but the transtainer goes over 5 boxes, and it's wide. It can straddle, I think, 5 boxes sitting on the ground side by side.
Oh, wow.
So it's a pretty large machine.
Yeah. That sounds huge. Yeah.
So the sponsorship determines what machines you'll get trained on. You know, because I was sponsored by APM Terminal, I learned the Hustler, which is a yard truck. I learned a top loader, which is a single machine that picks up one loaded box at a time and can move around with it. There's an empty handler, which only picks up empty boxes, which is a major component of the shipping industry here in America, because we mostly send out empty containers and then they come back full.
Gotcha.
We mostly import. We do export, but we mostly import goods into America.
Gotcha. And so your day will consist of you taking containers off for trucks and ships?
No, so I work in the ship to shore crane.
Ship to shore.
Right. So I'm not a yard. There's the transtainer, the top loader, you have the yard trucks. But let's just talk specifically cranes.
Okay.
The crane that I operate is specifically designed to offload and load the container ships.
Okay.
That's what I do. Then we have we call them details, that work in the yard to service the outside truckers.
Gotcha.
But I don't work on that side. I just work the ship.
Gotcha. So safety is paramount in this line of work. Can you share any experiences where you had to handle particularly challenging or risky situations while operating the crane?
So that's every situation.
Wow.
Honestly. I mean, you would imagine that the worst thing that could possibly happen is the loss of human life. And it is a machine and they do fail sometimes. So you want to employ safe working habits, and you want to, you can't anticipate some of the things that happen, but you can mitigate the circumstances by operating in a safe manner. So you want to lift up high when you're coming on and off the ship. You want to make sure there's no one in harm's way. You want to use different points on the ship to determine how high you should lift the box up, because sometimes we have to work over other containers that are still stowed on the ship. It's not always you go in a particular bay and you empty the entire bay and take everything off.
Oh.
Most of the time, we may only take a portion of the bay off, and then we're working over other containers that are perhaps going to another terminal in another state somewhere, or perhaps another country.
Got you.
So, ideally, you would love to just take the entire deck off, remove everything. And of course, if you're starting, let's say at 8 or 9 high, as you eliminate, it's getting lower and lower and there's less of a hazard.
Yeah.
And you eliminate everything, and now you don't have to keep climbing over things.
Got you.
Sometimes, for whatever reason, our terminal was chosen as kind of like a fuel depot. So all of the fuel barges fuel up at APM terminals in Elizabeth.
Gotcha.
They don't really, I'm sure they do it at other terminals, but where we allow them to mostly fuel up at our terminal.
Yeah.
When they're coming to our terminal.
Yeah.
Of course, there's other ships that don't come to our terminal. Then they, I'm not saying like we're the gas station for every ship that comes through. I mean, of the ships that are coming to our terminal, when they dock, they typically fuel up at APM terminals in Elizabeth.
Right.
And sometimes there's a lot of traffic in the channel, and the ship uses a little play in the lines, so the ship moves around sometimes. So you have to constantly judge where the ship is, because if the ship moves a lot and you take it for granted that it was exactly where you were and you're working down below the deck, then you could be completely off the mark. So, you have to constantly be aware, not multitasking, not fooling around with your cell phone. We know how dangerous cell phones are nowadays.
Yeah.
You have to be alert, be aware, pay attention. There's hazards everywhere. There's people walking around on the decks. There's people on the ground. They're driving. They're sometimes they're walking on and off the ship. Some of the ship personnel. So yeah, there's hazards everywhere, and everything could be potentially a deadly situation if it's handled the wrong way.
Yeah. Did you ever experience a deadly situation?
Unfortunately, there has been several deaths since I've been a longshoreman in 18 years.
Wow.
A young lady I knew personally lost her life. A couple outside drivers lost their lives. Accidents, of course.
Yeah.
Someone's looking for their container in the yard, and someone backs up and you hit someone, or someone falls on the ship.
Wow.
There's the situations where the belly of the ship is open, and a misstep can land you in the belly of the ship, and you're talking, you would imagine 9 containers stacked on top of one another at 6 a piece. Let's just round it up to 9. You're talking about a 70-foot drop.
Wow.
Down on hard metal. It doesn't take that far to kill someone. Someone can fall from 10 feet and lose their life.
Of course.
So yes, unfortunately, there has been some tragedy since I've been in the industry.
Yeah.
But we realize, and that's the thing about longshoremen that can't be taken for granted, is that every time you step foot on that terminal, you're potentially putting your life in harm's way.
Yeah. And I would assume that adverse weather conditions is your biggest opponent in the natural.
So wind is one of the biggest challenges. The wind.
Yeah.
Rain, yeah and no. If it's just a hard rain coming down straight without a lot of wind, we work in those conditions.
Yeah.
Big snowflakes makes it very difficult to see. Lightning, thunder and lightning, specifically lightning, can be a little nerve-wracking because you realize we're working in a metal crane.
Yeah.
And all the containers are metal. The ship is metal. Everything is metal.
And you stay up there in lightning?
Yeah. So the crane is grounded. At least that's what they tell us. Listen, the company wants to get the job done, and I get it. And certainly no one wants to lose their life, and we try to work as safe as possible. A lightning storm directly over the terminal would shut down operation. It depends on how close in the vicinity the lightning is.
Yeah.
There's been times where we've parked the crane and stopped working. There's been times fog has come and we
I hadn't thought
working.
about fog. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
But there's instances where there's fog and the channel closes.
Wow. That makes sense.
They won't let the ships through so sometimes the ships are delayed or ships are canceled.
Yeah.
Wind. I've seen a couple ships cut loose. The wind was so bad, lines have broken and ships have cut loose. And it's never happened at my terminal, but a couple cranes have been toppled when ships have cut loose, nosed into the pier, because the nose of the ship, comes like this at a slant. So there's a portion of the nose that could arch over the dock and hit a crane. Whereas once you get towards the middle section, obviously the dock is there and there's bumpers there. So there's a buffer to keep it away from the cranes.
Yeah.
However, if a ship cuts loose and noses into the crane and turns all the way into the dock, the nose of the crane can arch over the dock and hit a crane.
Wow.
I've seen it on videos, but by the grace of God, it's never happened at my terminal.
Thank God. How did COVID affect your job?
So we had more of a DIY approach, and I have to take my hat off to all the ILA on the East Coast, especially in my section, because we lost quite a few longshoremen through COVID. However, we were considered essential workers. I mean, we're essential under any circumstance.
Yeah.
Medical supplies, medicines, medical equipment, food, other provisions, it all comes through the port. So if we shut down, everything shuts down.
Yeah.
So there were times when I'm telling you, on the turnpike, I was the only car. And I live 25 miles from the terminal.
Wow.
And for 25 miles, I'm the only car on the highway. It's an eerie feeling.
Yeah.
But it was actually It was good. No traffic, no worries. Had the whole highway to myself. It was quite possibly just a good way of looking at a bad situation.
Gotcha.
In my own heart and mind. I always try to find a silver lining.
Gotcha.
We each individual took care of spraying down their machine and doing daily maintenance of the machine, but we had services that came through that did a more comprehensive sanitation on all the machines to do like a deep clean that kind of lasted for a little while, and then we would all have our own daily ritual, if you will, to protect ourselves and our families. But we didn't slow down. We kept it moving through the entire pandemic.
Got you. So you elaborated on a little bit on how you got in the Longshoreman Union, but why is it so difficult? Why is it such a big deal to get in, and it's not like a normal job you apply to? Why is it? It's highly coveted and it's really challenging to get in. Why is that? Why is it so difficult?
So, the job has been around for a number of years. So with that being said, the word has gotten out over time. So there was a lot of nepotism down through the years where you had to know someone to get the job. However, that has changed a lot as of recent times, where the exclusivity of the union's ability to select the labor, which quite honestly, the union is in charge of the labor. So that was the way it worked. The union picks out the labor. They pick out who gets hired. However they pick them out, a lot of it was probably through nepotism. And then they did take applications. However, what happened was they didn't hire every year.
Okay.
Hiring is done after a certain number of years. However, as of recent times, things have grown exponentially, and it has created a need for successive hirings within a short gap, where in prior times there may have been 5 or 6 years between hiring.
Wow.
Because the volume just was not there.
Oh, okay.
Right. So as the port has grown, as the area has grown, there became a greater need for labor. The volume, we took over at one point, we took over the volume of the West Coast.
Oh.
They were going through a long period of labor disputes. They couldn't resolve the contract issues. So we received a lot of the traffic from the West Coast.
Gotcha.
So we always had more expensive cargo here on the East Coast, but they had more volume on the West Coast. For some time, we took over both categories. We had more expensive cargo, and we took over the volume race as well. So that created a need for a closer gap in the hiring periods. So if there's 4, 5, 6 years in between the hiring periods, over time, people are inquiring, people are showing up to the local. Are you hiring? Yes. Well, no, not at this present moment. Leave your name, leave your social security number, leave your information. We'll put you on the waiting list.
Wow.
So what happens is the waiting list grows to thousands of people.
Yeah.
Over time. So then some people, I guess you can get pretty much lost in the shuffle. You're so far down on the waiting list, or when the hiring comes around, and I guess once they take care of the powers that be, take care of the folks they want to get in, then there's the slots that are left over after that.
Yeah.
So it's not exclusive to just a few people. It's spread out, and some of the people are chosen in a more equitable fashion. But you would imagine if I was a high union official, I would probably have a little bit more say-so.
Gotcha.
Over, taking care of certain people that, came to me that inquired about the job. Or if you had a worker that's been there 25, 30 years and he's, he's been committed and he's loyal and he has a son or a nephew and that's how the nepotism happens, right?
Yeah.
But as of recent years, they took 100% of the selection process out of the locals' exclusive hands, and they placed, I'm not sure of the exact percentages, but the local got, let's just say, 30%. And then 30% went to, let's say, 33%. 33% to the local, 33% to veterans.
Nice.
And then 33% to the Waterfront Commission, who vets their hirees through One Stop, which gives the average Joe, a better chance at, getting that job. I mean, it's still, it's still in the Lord's hands. If you just happen to be one of those people.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, for practical purposes, One Stop has their vetting criteria.
Yeah.
From what I hear, if you have a TWIC, if you have a CDL, if you have, a clean record, a good resume, if you have certain things already in place, you kind of get bumped up, a little bit higher in the potential hirees. And then here's the other thing. It's a blue collar job. So you don't need a college education. Mm-hmm. With that being said, anyone can get the job. However, I don't have a statistic on this, but quite a few people have not been able to pass a drug test.
Wow.
So people get the job, they get hired, and then they throw a surprise drug test on you, and then you don't get the job. Now, I'm not saying that's a overwhelming majority of the people, but there is a significant amount of people that have defaulted on the job for that very reason.
Got you. And so when you came in, you was attracted at the salary. What would you say is the average salary for someone coming in today?
It depends on the contract. We came in at $16 an hour.
Okay.
But you have to understand that it's all also contingent upon your seniority.
Gotcha.
So if you have more seniority and you're working, well, you're asking about coming in. So I'll just stick to that question. We came in at $16 an hour. There were other contracts where the rate was negotiated differently. Someone may have come in at 18. Some may have come in lower. It all depends.
That's 18 years ago. So, for all the listeners, you have to realize that was 18 years ago, $16 an hour.
Yeah, 18 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I lost my train of thought. Something about people. Okay, this is important. People come in during different seasons. So when I came in, the economy was terrible. They were doing construction at my terminal. They shut down a major pier that was here that generated a lot of work for ILA. So for 3 years, the first 3 years, I didn't make the minimum amount of hours that would qualify me for medical benefits and dental benefits, and that would even count towards my retirement. They were kind of throwaway years.
Oh,
And I had a second job up until my 7th year in the industry.
wow.
So I really paid my dues, and I did what I had to do for myself and my family, because I knew that the potential to, to make a lot of money was there.
Yeah.
However, there some have come in where things were booming and made, maybe just under 6 figures, or maybe even 6 figures, first year in the industry.
Yeah.
That was not my experience. I didn't really start making money, like I said, to 7-8 years in the industry. And that's when I finally let go. I was still driving a tractor trailer 7 years in.
Wow.
That was on the side.
So what would you say someone with 10 plus years on average would make today?
So once again, I'm not sure how the wage scale goes.
Yeah.
This changes with the contract all the time. Someone may get to top pay within that particular period. Everyone's not grandfathered into a pre-existing contract. So everything was set up a certain way when I came in, and then we got a new contract and we were brought up to speed after a certain period of time. They accelerated our pay scale, but then when it's a struggle, right? Because you understand that the company does not want to pay these large wages.
Yeah.
So they're always looking for justification to not pay as much. And we're hoping for them to have a great year so we can demand more.
Gotcha.
So that's how it goes, if in a year of a contract, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, the company makes record profits. That puts us in a very good position to negotiate.
Yeah.
However, and if that given year they lose a lot of money, then they say they play the pauper, right?
Yeah.
We're hurting and we lost money, so we want to take this back and we want to take that back. And so I said all that to say it's kind of hard for me to answer that question, but it's safe to say that a longshoreman that's doing well is making 6 figures.
Gotcha. And your schedule consists, is not a normal 9 to 5 or no?
Every day, on a daily basis, for the last 18 years, I've had to get my schedule. Now, this is the part that people are unprepared for. Most people hear longshoremen and they think of the bottom line, a lot of money. But they're not really preparing themselves because they don't really understand how demanding it is on your time, on your emotions, on your mental, on your family, even your health. Because you don't have a set schedule, it puts some people in the predicament where they neglect their health. The schedule is very rigorous. The working conditions are rigorous. We're working outside in the elements, in the cold. Doesn't matter how cold it gets. 10 below, 15 below, next to the water, with the wind. Okay, in the heat, 100 plus degrees. You're out there, rain, sleet, snow, ice. We're out there in all of those conditions.
Wow.
So you think about the money, but then you have to always count the cost. You always have to count the cost. Anytime you make that kind of decision to get in a job that's so demanding, and it's the one thing that people are mostly unaware of when they embark on the journey to become a longshoreman.
Yeah. Did you ever know any people that got the job early and was like, I can't do this, and would leave?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yes. Yep. Many people, especially when I came in, because like I said, we struggled. Now, let me put this into perspective for you. 700 hours was the minimum to earn a year towards your retirement, to get benefits and things of that nature. 700 hours is 13 hours a week.
Wow.
13 hours a week. I did not make 700 hours, 13 hours a week my first 3 years.
Wow.
Now imagine that. Imagine you were at a job, let's say even making 50,000, 60,000, 18 years ago, of course.
Yeah.
And you're in this unpredictable job that you have to call every day. It's mandatory that you be available a certain amount of hours per month. If you're not available, they suspend your pass.
Wow.
So you basically calling in every day, and then they say you have work or you don't have work. And then if you call in and you don't have work, right? This is the night before. You still have to be available up until 9 o'clock the next day.
Wow.
So how are you supposed to work a job? How you go to work the next day, and then they call you and say, hey, we need you here. But you're already at work. So I found a way to navigate that, through 3 years. But, you could potentially leave something lucrative and rewarding coming over here thinking, this is it. Longshoreman, finally. And then, it's not what you thought it was. Or things slow down, and then you're sitting at home every day, maybe collecting unemployment. Some people could survive off of that, but most people find it very difficult, especially if you have children and maybe a mortgage and responsibilities, to survive off of unemployment.
Yeah. So after the lean 3 years, you were set in full time the remaining 15 or no?
No, 7 years.
Oh, 7 years. After the 7, you were
After 7 years. So I've been there 18 years. I've been in the crane for 10 years. So around my 7th year, I probably could have got rid of the truck driving job my 6th year. But I was so traumatized that, from the struggles, that I didn't want to lose my security blanket in case things went south again.
Yeah.
So that 7th year, I really didn't work the trucking job that much, but I specifically remember in that 7th year being off one day and saying, hey, I think I'll go drive the truck today. Probably didn't need to do it, but I still had it and I wanted to keep things good over there. So I went and drove a day, and eventually my 8th year, going into my 8th year, I started to get the crane training. So I knew that I was transitioning to another level once I got the crane training. And then there was no guarantee that I was going to get in the crane after that, because then they open a list and you have to make it. So it goes by seniority.
Wow.
And if enough people with more seniority decided they wanted those open slots, then I wouldn't have gotten the crane slot. But once again, my steps were divinely ordered, and I put my name in for it and I got it.
Yeah, praise
But
God.
then I had to hold on to it, which is another story, because the crane operator is the only position that has a report card. You have to maintain a standard.
That makes sense.
Of course, it's all teamwork. We work together as a team. I couldn't do my job without other members of my team. But the crane operator is the one that takes the stuff off the ship and puts it on. So without the crane operator, nothing moves, which puts it so high on the totem pole of essential jobs, at the terminal. Even the yard can't do anything without
moving
the crane operator. So the crane operator is at the highest level of port jobs.
And is the pay consummate with that title?
So there's a differential for each machine, and the crane operator does get the highest differential.
So in your position, what do you like least and what do you like most about your job?
The unpredictability of my schedule.
Yeah, it's the least, right?
Right. And then the opportunities that it has afforded me in life through the fruits of my labor.
Gotcha.
The pay is lucrative. I have nice vacation time, holiday pay. I have a pension. We get different bonuses here and there, and it has really blessed me greatly.
Gotcha. Are there any specific achievements or milestones in your career that you are particularly proud of?
So I was just talking about this a little while ago. I'm not going to toot my horn too much, but there's one thing that I am proud of, and this was some would say a chance happening, but I know better. There was a film crew at the job, and they just happened to come by my crane and interview me and come up in the cab with me and spend some time with me while I was operating the crane. So that's something that I'm pretty proud of. Outside of the fact that I'm a consistent operator. I probably am up there with some of the top guys. And that didn't come easy. It's a learning curve.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure, but if you work on your craft, you can really obtain the skills to be a solid operator. It's not about being the fastest or the best, but you want to be safe. You want to be consistent. You want to be reliable and dependable.
Yeah. Throughout your career, have you had any opportunities to mentor or train new crane operators? And if so, what advice did you typically share with them?
Well, mostly I tell the guys, don't be a lazy operator. Every now and then, I'm not the crane trainer. I did not want that position because it would not give me the highest opportunity to earn.
Gotcha.
So I wanted to stick with the highest opportunity to earn. So I stayed working on the ship. The crane trainer has to come out of the rotation with the particular group that they work with, and train the people. So it's a more set schedule, which some people choose because it's what fits in their life the best. Maybe they've been there a long time and they want a more set schedule.
Gotcha.
They want to work 8 to 3 every day. That affords you the ability to do that. So when I do get some trainees, which they randomly will select a crane because they look at, I guess, the work or where you're at on the ship, and someone that looks at the logistics of the work of the day will say, well, take them up in this crane. They call me Ray. Ray Leak is in that crane. Take them up there with Ray and let them learn with Ray. Or it might be another operator. Gotcha. Maybe it's just, wide open, not a lot of hazards. And so the thing that I say is don't be a lazy operator. Work on your craft. I found that each year I have progressed in my abilities, my skills, my control over the machine. But it was intentional. There's ways that you could cut corners and take the easy way out in your learning. But if you commit yourself to getting better every day, then when the difficult parts of the job come, you'll have control over the crane, because speed control is your speed. When you can control the crane, you can move fast and be out of control. Then you'll spend more time trying to control the crane to do a maneuver. But a nice steady pace, under control, no wasted movements, the speed will come. But it's something that you have to work. You have to work at it. You know, you can't work every other move. Like, for instance, some guys, you'll have a big deck of boxes. Some guys will go the top box, where it takes some skill to grab the top box, because you don't really have a backboard to bounce off another box. They'll take the top box off, and then they'll slide down the next box and pick another box up, and then do it again, slide down and take another box off, and they'll keep doing that. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, all the way across the ship. I tell the guys, when you have an opportunity, just work straight across. Use your skills and practice your skills. Grab every box like you don't have a backboard. You want to make it a swish every time. Then when you have to pick up hatch covers, when you have to do overheights, when you have to do difficult maneuvers, and you don't have the ability to just slide down another box, you could just do it. This may not make a whole lot of sense, because I'm using, terminology that would force you to imagine the picture that I have seen, hundreds of thousands of times. But just trust me when I say, if you commit to putting in work, they say what? Practice makes perfect. So that's what I tell the guys. Work on your craft, work to get better. You can't do it for the break, because a crane operator gets a nice break, and some of the other positions don't get as long of a break as a crane operator. And the guys want the break because they want to, have more freedom during the day. You can't do it for that.
Yeah.
You have to do it because you, on some level, enjoy, the position, or enjoy the competition of, trying to be the best. That could be your motivation.
Yeah.
But I look at it as a labor of love. Everything I do is an act of worship to God. And that's just, and I've sprinkled in something about God. If you haven't, for the viewing audience, gathered that by now, I'm a man of God. Yeah. So I try to show love to the people that I'm working around, and I try not to bang up the drivers and, by landing a box rough or do dangerous things to make the ground crew fearful and on edge every time I come out with a box, So to me, it's a labor of love. Everything is an act of worship. I want to be great, not for me, but because I'm a vessel for God.
Amen to that. Yeah. Looking back, is there any advice you would give to your younger self when you started out as a longshoreman crane operator?
Well, in the beginning, there were times when I didn't want to listen as much as I do now. Now I make sure to listen, because there could be moments, if you don't listen, it could be catastrophic. Like if someone is on a radio saying stop, or if someone's on a radio cautioning you or telling you to wait or anything. Or if you hear something that sounds out of the ordinary, because believe it or not, you can hear things when you're up in the crane. I can hear things falling on the deck of the ship, stuff like that. Not listening has caused some crane operators to be out of the crane, no longer crane operators.
Wow.
Because people try to give you advice. People try to tell you things to help you. And, this is a male-dominated industry, and there's a lot of testosterone, and every delivery is not with kid gloves. Sometimes the delivery might be harsh, but you have to consider the message and not the messenger. Yeah. And you have to swallow your pride and read in between the lines and understand when someone is trying to help you.
Yeah.
Now, it's never cost me majorly, and I did not stay in that pattern for a very long time. Some people, you just can't tell them nothing, right?
Yeah.
You try to help people, you try to tell them stuff, and they know everything. You just got up there last week and you, I know. No, you don't know. So, maybe I went through a short phase of that, but God opened my eyes up very quickly. And now, when people are warning me or cautioning me, or if I hear stop, or even if someone erroneously says stop, I stop first and ask questions later. Because that stop that you ignore because you think somebody's trying to tell you what to do or tell you how to operate could be somebody's life.
Yeah. So you've been happy with your report cards for the past 11 years?
Like I said, I've matriculated. I had my struggles in the beginning, and every crane operator goes through that. It's a learning curve. They expect a minimum amount of moves per hour, which is like 25 moves per hour. Last time I checked, that was the standard. So when you first get up there, I can remember days where I was doing like 10 moves, 12 moves. And
so that means you were cutting corners?
That means I just wasn't good enough at the time.
Oh, okay.
So, they have to give you some time to learn. Yeah. Because like I said earlier, it's an on-the-job learning. You're not going to face every scenario and every situation in a few months of training that you'll encounter. Imagine, now I've been up there almost 11 years. I've probably encountered every possible scenario that there is, and I wouldn't be surprised if new situations happen every day. I just know how to navigate now because there's a lot of things that I've seen before.
Gotcha.
And when you're new, there's a lot of things that you have not seen, that you don't recognize, because a lot of how you operate is recognizing the eye gets trained. I always use this example. You can be several hundred yards away from a stop sign, but it's a stop sign because it's red and because it's an octagon. It has 8 sides. So you don't have to see the word stop on it, right, but you've seen it so many times that the eye just recognizes what it is. Maybe your vision is blurry, you can see something written, you can't see the whole thing, but just based upon a couple letters, your brain recognizes what you're looking at. So a lot of times I look at the corners of the tops of the boxes, or I just have done stuff so many times that I recognize when a box is landed, it's sitting right, because every box has to sit right. You know, there's locks on when you're working on the deck of a ship, there's locks that are placed on the four corners of the containers.
Oh, to lock into the next one to keep it.
Exactly. And it's an independent piece. It's about this big, it's super heavy, and it's made of some kryptonite type metal that is just, I don't know what kind of metal this is, but it is super strong. I mean, you can land a box and you can miss and slam that, we call them shoes. You can slam that shoe, the locking shoe down. It won't break, it won't bust. It is just, man, these things are super strong. But once you put them in there and they all have wires on them and they turn and you put them on all four corners of the box, when you land a box, it goes down and it turns and it locks into the other box. And you could pick 2 boxes up. If they're empties, you could pick 5 boxes up, 5 containers at one time with these locks on there.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So it's a lot, you know. It's a lot.
Yeah. So what would you advise someone do that's looking to pursue a career as a longshoreman?
Well, I mean, the normal thing that people do is you have a few options. If you're a veteran, you have a good chance if they're hiring at the time. That's the thing that I didn't understand when I first embarked on this journey, is that if they're not hiring, it doesn't matter how qualified you are or who you know, you're not going to get the job. You can know the most powerful person in the local. If they're not hiring at the time, the local is answerable to another governing body on when the books are open to hire. So if they're not hiring, you're not going to get the job. So timing is everything. So you want to keep checking in and keep your eyes open to announcements, or keep checking at the local to find out if they're hiring. You can get a TWIC, you can get your CDL. These are things that will raise your chances and your opportunity of getting hired. Back to the military people, they have a good chance. And then if you know someone and they're hiring, you can ask them to help you to get in. That'll give you an opportunity to get in. Or finally, if they're hiring, once again, which is the key thing, you go to One Stop and you got to keep your eye open, because they post this stuff, I believe, in the newspaper or online, or sometimes on flyers. They post the hirings, and you go to One Stop. Now, I found out through talking to different people, that's why I said what I said about the TWIC and a driving abstract. Let's just say we're in a period where they are hiring, okay? And you show up to One Stop like everyone else. You better get there early, like Black Friday early, okay? Get there Black Friday early, because if they're overwhelmed and there's too many people, and I heard the line was down the street, round the corner. So they'll start vetting people on the line. So if you don't have a resume, a TWIC, a driving abstract, CDL is not a mandatory thing, but it would increase your chance. But those are the 3 main things: a resume, a TWIC, and a driving abstract. If you get there Black Friday early, and you have those 3 things, and you're online, you'll get a chance to get heard, and it'll increase your chances to get the job. Yeah. If you have a CDL, then it increases your chances even more.
Yeah. Question: so when you say they hiring, say when you retire, they won't look to just fill your spot. It has to be a hiring period?
Has to be a hiring period.
Gotcha.
So people retire every year, but it's not hundreds of people that retire every year. You know, you're not required to retire at a certain age. So you could still work the job at 70, 75. I think there's a guy like 90 years old.
No, stop.
Yeah, well, some people, I call it...
no way, Ray. You serious?
Well, 90, that might be a stretch, but he's got to be in his 80s. That's why I said like. He's up there. He's up there.
He's doing a crane at 80?
No.
Oh.
He's driving a yard truck.
Okay.
And then there's other positions where you're not operating a machine.
Oh, okay.
We're just talking about getting a job right now, or working the job, and people retiring.
Gotcha.
I mean, listen, chances are you won't get the job and become a crane operator anyway.
Yeah.
Crane operators are the smallest percentage of the workforce.
Gotcha.
The largest percentage of the workforce, the ground level job, is working at a car shed. It's mandatory to have a driver's license coming in. So that's a job anyone could do. You get the job, you start off at a car shed, and you drive cars off the car shed, and you park them in a giant parking lot where Toyotas, Mazdas, we got a BMW place over in Bayonne.
The new cars. New
cars, exactly.
So you be doing that all day, driving off the ship?
All day. Yep, all day. Oh, thank God I don't do that no more, but...
Oh, you used to do that for a time?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, everybody.
Oh, okay.
Everyone does it when you first come in. That and the cruise ship, a lot of people don't know. We do cruise ships.
What do you do on a cruise ship?
So when a cruise ship comes in, the first thing that happens is the people have to come off the ship. So you have to porter the people off the ship, right? If the ship is coming in and people are leaving, you porter the people off the ship, meaning you get their bags and you bring them off the ship and you see them to their destination. Or it might be vice versa. Let's say the ship is going out, there's nobody on the ship. The people come in and you porter the people's bag. You get all the people's bags. We collect all the bags. We run them all through the X-ray machines. This is the longshoreman. Make sure there's no contraband, no weapons, guns, or we work along with customs agents.
Okay.
They're manning the machines. We're the labor. We pick the bags up. We put all the bags on the conveyor belts. They look at the scanners and they're trained to do that. And then we take the bags off once they're cleared and we put them in these giant carts and we take them to the ship. They pick them up with these forklifts. They take them to the belly of the ship where other people put the bags on the ship. They take all of the garbage off of the ship from the last cruise, and then tractor trailers come in with ice, drinks, food, like toilet paper and napkins and whatever provisions they need for however long the cruise is.
Yeah.
So we handle the entire infrastructure to get that ship docked, everything unloaded, all the garbage reloaded, get the bags in, porter the people on, porter the people, the people coming off the ship, get them off the ship, take them to their cars or their transportation. We do that whole thing, and that's an all-day affair.
Yeah. So I just came from a cruise this summer, and it was around Midtown Manhattan.
Yeah.
So that was Longshoreman that was doing
That's a Longshoreman. I worked over there many a day. When I first came in, that's all I had was car ships and cruise ships. And the guys is handling luggage and offloading the people you see, most of the people you see walking around, if they have safety vests on and they don't have Caribbean cruise, Royal Caribbean or whatever cruise line.
The name of the brand, yeah.
Right, whatever you have, then those are longshoremen.
Got you. Because I did notice some guys that didn't have any branded active wear on, but I didn't know you guys did that. That's interesting.
So you came back into New York?
Well, I left from New York and came back into New York.
So did someone help you with your bags or?
No, I kept my bag because I didn't want to go through. So I did notice it was in the belly of the ship by the elevators, and they had dogs sniffing. So I guess a third level, fourth level, whatever level of security looking over the bags.
Right.
And then they had the bags delivered to the rooms. But I just kept my bag.
So we don't go on the ship.
Okay.
Well, we're just in no further than like the belly of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we offload the carts onto the ship with the bags on there. And they got a whole elaborate system set up.
Yeah.
And that's what the longshoremen do.
All right. So Ray, Mr. Leak Sr., we came to our last question, but before I ask it, would you like to share anything that I might have missed?
Well, I just want to reiterate that you should always count the cost and just understand that being a longshoreman is not just all about money.
Yeah.
Even though that is the most provocative aspect of the job that everyone hears about.
Yeah.
It's the lure, right? But some money is, you have to say, well, this is good money, but at what cost?
Yeah.
If you already have a volatile home life, it's probably not something that you want to embark on.
Wow.
Because you're going to spend so much time away from home and your family. If the relationship does not have a great level of trust between, if you're single, that's different. But if you have let's just say a partner, married or whatever, you're dating, and there's not a high level of trust there, this job can destroy your relationship because the schedule is unpredictable. Every day could be a different set of hours you're working. There's some times where you're working overnight. Wow. You're not going into work until 1 a.m.
Wow.
There's times where you might be there all day, all night, working away from, not just relationship-wise, but away from your family. So there are situations where it's probably not advisable because the cost would be too great, to try to pursue that. Then you also have to look at what you're leaving versus what you're stepping into, because that's also an unpredictable aspect. It's about seniority. So if you're at the bottom of the totem pole and things get slow, you're gonna sit home. And if you have a family to feed,
wow,
you have children to take care of, you have responsibilities, you're gonna take a beating financially,
wow,
and probably mentally and emotionally if you're not financially prepared and things don't go in your favor.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of environmental hazards, smoke, pollution, dust, things of that nature. People tend not to eat properly because you spend so much time at the job. Your sleep deprivation. How could I forget about that?
Wow.
Sleep deprivation is another thing that longshoremen suffer from. You could potentially get off work at 1 a.m. and have to be back at work 7 a.m. the next morning.
Wow.
So that's only a 6-hour window. If you live 30 minutes away, that's an hour back and forth traveling. You may have nights where you get 3-4 hours sleep. And if you're not a good daytime sleeper like myself, and you work overnight hours, I tend to get off at 5 a.m, lay down 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then I'm up at 9 and just feeling, terrible the next day. You have to be able to, persevere through those kind of conditions. If you're not good with working outside in the elements, in the heat, you know, for women, it's a mostly male-dominated industry. If you don't have tough skin, it may be difficult for you to navigate through that. You know, so there's a lot to consider, and don't just think about the money.
Gotcha.
You know, there's a lot of different tentacles to the job that you need to weigh. You need to weigh all of these things before you say, I want to be a longshoreman. You know, especially if you're up in age, you have a family and things of that nature. If you're young, you don't have responsibilities. Maybe you live at home or you have roommates. It's probably a good situation for a person like that.
Yeah.
But for a person that has a family, responsibilities, and you're coming into the job later on in life, you really have to think very carefully about what you're getting yourself into.
Wow.
Because the risk-reward ratio might not go in your favor.
Yeah, wow. This was great. This is great because, like you said, people just look at the earning potential and not what it takes, you know, counting the cost. And so that's why I do the podcast, and that's a big deal. And so thank you for taking us behind the curtain, the ins and outs, the ups and downs, things that people have to really consider because, you know, everyone just looks at the glory. You know, it's like an athlete. Like I get to play football, I'm a star, but training camp, travel,
right?
You know, making that money, and all your cousins looking for you. All those,
right.
All those things. Counting the cost is a big deal. So this helps people count the cost, all the behind the scenes information you've been able to share.
Right. You miss out on a lot of things sometimes. Precious moments of life. You know, your kid's first day at school or the PTA meeting or, you know, a lot of precious moments in life you potentially miss out on because of the demand of the job.
Yeah. Because the scheduling is just based on the ships coming in, right? You got a ship coming in, I need you here. Ship coming in, I need you here.
Hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Hit the nail on the head.
Your schedule is based on the ship's schedule.
It's based on the ship's schedule.
Got you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then every day is potentially different. I could be starting at 8 a.m. today, 1 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow, 1 a.m. the next day, 7 p.m. the next day. You know, it's just.
But do you get special rest requirements because you're on the crane?
Right. So I get a 12-hour break for every 6 hours I work.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, it's the most responsibility working the crane. It's one of the more critical positions to the operations.
Yeah.
So they expect the crane operators to come in ready to go.
Gotcha.
They don't want to hear no excuses about being tired or, you know, the baby kept me up last night or, you know, you can't, you know, it's hard to fake it till you make it in the crane through a 6 hour, you know, down and you're working nonstop.
So you're in the crane for 6 hours straight?
6 hours straight, moving.
You got a sandwich, coffee, bag of chips?
I do, yes, I do. Yeah, I've lightened up my my snack regimen now because, you know, you're sitting down for 6 hours and then some of the hours you're working, you know, you find yourself snacking, you know, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So, I'm getting up there in age. If you haven't noticed,
That's wisdom right there.
I gotta watch it.
Yeah. You can stand up in the crane though and stretch and stuff, right? Like,
yes.
It's high enough for you to stand up and stay loose.
Yeah, so the crane has, you know, all the amenities, you know, comfort. We have plugs up there. I listen to my radio while I'm up there, listen to music, or you could listen to different things if you want, you know, while you're working, provided you're not loading the ship, which requires may require a lot of instructions because certain boxes go certain places. Sometimes it doesn't. You're just filling up each particular cell, it's called. You know, you might put 100 boxes down below the ship, and they just say, well, just fill it all up. So then you might work 6 hours and not have to talk to anyone. But a lot of times, you know, there's a lot of instructions. Put this box there, put that box there. One box, every box goes a certain place.
Gotcha.
You know? So there's a lot of coordination. Sometimes you get hazardous materials. Certain hazardous materials can only go next to other hazardous materials. There could be explosives, ammunition, all types of things in the containers. And we don't know. It's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you always know what you...
The only way you could really know that potentially what's in it is if you learn the placard system and what the symbols mean, and you recognize a class 6 explosive or a class 6 gas or toxic material, or, you know, if you learn, and they do give us, you know, materials so that we recognize certain things, but the percentage of us that actually learn that as a crane operator is more critical to know that as a ground crew person. Because you're coming into closer contact with the freight.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you're trained to be careful no matter what it is. So it's not going to make a difference to you what it is per se.
Exactly.
You're trained to be to exercise your expertise and precision anyway.
No matter what it is.
Yeah. No
matter what it is.
Yeah. So thank you for your time, Mr. Leak. Our last question is this: if you could text your younger self, what age would you text, and what would the message be?
If I could text my younger self, I would text my 17-year-old self, and I would say, stay with the Lord.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Good.
That's what I would say.
All right. So, Mr. Leak Sr., we thank you for your time, all the valuable information, taking people behind the curtain. I'm sure it's been a plethora of knowledge people didn't even consider before looking at longshoremen as a career and a profession. So I thank you. Thank you for taking this time out on your Sunday from your busy schedule, your rest, your family. We appreciate you sincerely, and we thank you.
All right. I appreciate it. And God bless everyone. I wish you the best of luck on your endeavors and the rest of your year.
Amen. God bless you.
Brother.
Take care. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Thank you for spending time with us. Please share, review, and subscribe now. Follow us on social media, where we post new guest alerts and show recaps. All the information will be in the show notes. Thank you, and be blessed.